to Dovecraft Country, the podcast hosted by Goddess Love Jones, DKA X Factor, DKA Bad and Bougie, DKA my special sister. I am your other host, Black Chanel, DKA the Guru, DKA the General, DKA Red Panther. And this is a podcast where two divas talk about the HBO series Lovecraft Country. How are you doing today, Coco? How's it going?
I'm doing good. It's a little late, but
Oh yeah,
we're trying to get this in, so that's worth it.
Yeah, we started late in the series, and then every week the Lord challenges us and tells us, are you sure you want to talk about this show? The show is really getting to something. But before we start to banter, let's tell them we're doing a different type of episode this week.
Yes.
This week is a watch-along commentary.
And that should be pretty cool, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, if it clicks, it clicks.
Yeah, if it don't, it's just one episode. So what we're going to do is, this is your chance to go pause, go pull up HBO, go open up HBO Max or Hulu, whatever you're watching on, and go to 0 minutes, 0 seconds, like start from the beginning, even the intros or the recap. And we're all going to press play at the same time. And then me and Coco will give you commentary throughout, and then we'll talk at the end. And then it'll be like kind of a this will be like a clean 1 hour, maybe 1 hour plus podcast. So that's what we're going to do. You ready, Coco? Okay, we're going to, let's do a countdown like alternating 3, 2, 1, and then go together. So 3, 2, 1.
Well, I think that we should press it on the number.
So 3, 2, and then
on
1. Okay, so I'll say 3, you say 2, and then I'll say 1. We'll press on 1.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, 3,
2,
1. Okay, we are starting. You should be seeing HBO blurred up now. Okay, so we're starting with recapping episode 2. So yeah, how are you feeling about the task we've taken on to recap this show?
I mean, I think the show is dope.
It's really dope.
First and foremost, I'm really excited about this show, but also, I was saying that every episode feels like a movie, so it's really so much to talk about, and it's exciting to talk about. And I love that because I hate a show where it's just cliffhanger after cliffhanger.
Hell yeah!
If it's dope, if you have good writers, good actors, and good effects, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
I will watch. You don't have to keep me hanging on a thread. And this show, it just it ties it up, but it's what's there?
Agree. Yeah, and it's also not just about romance, and I really love that it's about something and it's Black. Not that romance isn't anything, but it's that can only be so much. So in this recap, we are, and speaking of kind of how great the show is and how much you miss, there's even small things in episode 1 that come back around in 3 and partway in 4, and you should be seeing the HBO again here now in Lovecraft. Episode 3 is starting in church. We are in Black church. What did you think about this depiction of Black church? Was it accurate? Was it one of the better ones?
I would say that it feels accurate. However, that's not the type of church that I went to. So
LOL.
It's I've been to a church like that once or twice, but we don't dance in the aisle.
Wow,
church.
No, that's I've been to all this.
Last time I was at church, which was
right. Yeah, they might have changed since you've been there last year. I don't even know. No. I've been to all kind of churches. I will tell you that if I'm going to go to church, I need to go to one with drums and a Black choir. That's it, because although the white churches and the non-musical churches have shorter service, I really prefer something where I'm ooh, the ancestors did this too. So I had nothing to do with this church. Is just about the experience. Yeah. But so Letty's in church looking great. And she's crying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that this is probably where it didn't say that this is a flashback, so I'm assuming this is right after what just happened.
Right. This part was
weird. They came back from Massachusetts.
Right. So the title card is on. In the summer of 55, a group of Negro men and women move into the Northside of Chicago, and 10 days later, 3 people go missing. Pioneering is dangerous. Oh, I get it now. Because at first I was what the fuck? But I know who the 3 people are. Okay, great.
Right, exactly. Because I was the Black people go
missing? I was I also what confused me was I was okay, did this happen before and then we're in the 60s and this is a whatever? I couldn't tell.
Right. So now it's more recent, and then they were telling this is what happened in the past. It was no, this was present to the show.
Right. Right. Well, okay. So two details. The episode is called Holy Ghost, and the second detail is that in that card that they had to start, like the information card, they said pioneering is dangerous, and so here comes this theme now of Letitia pioneering, which I've never really heard that term used as much, but I believe it's just the idea of like being the first Black person in a neighborhood, especially when like there's violence implied. There's violence implied and explicit in every part of the spiders. There's violence in every part and of life in pioneering in those days. Like right now, there's still violence, but there's also a lot of like passiveness or like, you know, just like kind of people minding their own business or inclusion. Like you have options now, but like just thinking about the fact that to pioneer meant you knew there was going to be some bullshit. I don't even know how to process that.
I feel like pioneering, I feel like I might have learned about it, but I think maybe through the context clues, it just clicked
I just don't know if
easily.
it was
So I
told the
definitely
same
know
way.
it now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like with
it definitely
redlining and all
clicked.
that.
Exactly. Yeah. So Letitia and Ruby are here. Letitia is convincing Ruby to move into this house. We didn't even say that Ruby bought a house. Letitia bought a house. It's this huge old Richie looking house. Right. And so that's the first question. And I was confused about the amount of time that had passed since then. But here, Letitia's showing Ruby the house, and she shows her that she has an elevator because it's 3 stories, including a basement. And now she's looking for the elevator. The bitch comes down and almost take her motherfucking head off. And that is foreboding, foreshadowing all the fours. And so Letitia laughs it off, but we see in a moment that she's actually scared shitless, but she's not going to show Ruby that because Ruby has no idea of all the stuff she's gone through and how Letitia has literally seen death and come back. Like Letitia died. So then we go to Hippolyta, and she is, so we're going to come back to Ruby and Letitia because they have a fight later that we can talk more in detail about what just happened here. But basically Ruby said she's in as long as Letitia uses his boarding house to help the community, but she's nervous because it's on the north side. So then we go to Hippolyta, and the house that she and Uncle George shared is obviously after the death, and it's in real time because she's sad as a widow, like you can just tell. And what did she start, like what did you think about what she does while she's sitting at this nightstand?
This is interesting. I was trying to figure out because it's like, okay, she has this book Dracula in the last episode or maybe before they said that was George's favorite book. So she's ripping out the pages. Like, yes, maybe it's therapeutic. Maybe it's like when I rip all the pages out, I'll have to be over, like I'll have to move on. But she doesn't look, she looks very stoic. She doesn't look sad. She looks angry.
Yeah.
But I guess that's definitely the like stage of grieving. Yeah. So
I think she's mad at him for leaving her. I felt like that because at first I was like, oh, she's about to hold this book and cry over it. But then I said, well, also pointing out the can of Murray's hair pomade.
I saw that. Yeah. Very black, very black.
So they're in the living room.
To this day.
They're in the living room. They're in the kitchen now. It's Tick and Dee, and they are making the table. And I cannot imagine making the table that used to fit 4 and not making space for 3. Like that doesn't make no sense. So Tick is helping out. He's cooking. He tells Hippolyta that he's also in Hippolyta's way. Let's start with that. So he's just really trying to help because it was his blood uncle. So he actually doesn't quote unquote owe Hippolyta anything, but he's trying to help. And I know that there's some guilt about his death, most likely. And then I know there's guilt about the death. And then we find out that like there was a deadline with the guidebook, but Tick took care of it overnight. And Hippolyta is irritated that he did it without her looking at it. But mind you, the deadline was like a month ago. So I'm like, I know you don't want him to overstep. It's just like it was not 2 days late.
Someone's gonna need to do it. Also, I think that one is interesting that this book, I wonder how frequently it comes out, and like, is this like a newsletter? Like people are waiting to find out what's the next stop. Because like if also like, is it a national thing? Is it a local thing? Like I would love to know more details about that. It's very interesting.
I really assumed he was making green books.
I mean, I didn't see that. I don't know.
LOL. Green Book is you don't need to see the movie. That's what's so funny about it. Green Book is just this. Okay, so we're gonna come back to Hippolyta and Dee and them and her resistance because now Tick is visiting his dad. But I just want to write that down and then I'm gonna tell you what this is. So and then there's another book, The Count of Crystal. So Green Book
Oh
is the
yeah, Monte
movie.
Cristo.
Yes. Okay. So I'm making our notes. So Green Book is a movie that won an award, but it was actually kind of a trash movie. So the idea was that the idea of a Green Book is literally like they have them in museums, like that's what they're making, these guidebooks. And its idea is that the book is actually green and it's code and it's a way that like, you know, Afro-Americans know like, hey, I can use this for safe passage. So the guidebooks would be called Green Books. And so the movie Green Book is about this white guy escorting martial law across the country so he stays safe, but the guy is actually Vigo is actually like racist himself or like some bullshit. So Guidebook the movie, I mean Green Book the movie, not the poster child.
Doesn't
Green
have
Books,
to do with what
right? Green Books
Book
himself. Yeah, that's
are.
just what they call. Yeah. So you've been talking about guidebooks this whole time. I just think the name that I've seen them in museums called by is called Green Books. I don't know if that's the color of the pages,
Gotcha.
cover of the cover. So same thing. But anyway, so yeah, so Tick's talking to his dad and he just found him in there drunk as fuck, muttering to himself. How do you feel about this scene?
This scene was in like continued and indicative of what their relationship is gonna be like. It's gonna be rocky. It's not gonna be, oh, like I've come to save you and make you breakfast and I'll get you cleaned up.
Yep.
It's gonna be very like, why are you in my space? Like, no, you can't stay here. We don't get along no matter what, even though, yes, I recognize you as my son. Yes, I recognize you as dad. And then it was interesting how he said, Uncle George used to tell me this story because his father was like muttering something from a dream.
Yep.
He says, Uncle George, this was his favorite story. He used to tell me this all the time. He didn't say, Pop, you used to tell me this story all the time. So it already shows that they did not have a strong relationship, and he had a strong relationship with his uncle, who is now gone.
Yeah, so. Which we've talked about before with the book references and the fact that they finish each other's sentences. Well, I just noticed there's a pencil sharpener bolted to this wall, and I love that, and I miss fifth grade.
Throwback.
Yeah, so it's so funny. So he comes in and says, can I stay with you? Because I realize I've outworn Aunt Hippolyta's welcome without her saying it, just like he can tell he's in her way, which Tick being emotionally intelligent is another reason why he's fine as fuck. But his dad says, verbally says, yeah, you can stay here, but he doesn't like you said, he doesn't roll out the red carpet. He's just like, well, fuck it, you can be in the house, sure. So then Tick is feeling guilt because, you know, a woman's intuition is strong as fuck. So if you think a woman knows when you cheat, she definitely knows when you died under mysterious circumstances and it don't make sense and the exit wound don't match up. So Tick is saying that he feels extremely guilty about her not knowing, and she's going to find out. And like, okay, Williams, who plays Montrose, is like, nigga, you're not telling her shit. Like, you're just not telling her, there's no reason. And his reasons are really because he thinks it's super duper dangerous. And then the best part of the scene, I think, to me, was that the train comes by and fully interrupts this very serious moment where they're fighting. But Tick storms off. And I was disappointed. Like, can y'all cool off and then figure it out?
And talk about it. Yeah, there's really they're operating on completely different terms. They're not on the same accord at all, which is crazy because it's like, okay, what's the plan? What's the plan? There's no plan.
Yep.
They're both operating on their own.
Pretend it didn't happen. But for an addict, I can imagine that somebody is okay with that. Wait, why does this guy come in and he's moving in and she says, you're a novelist? He goes, yeah. It's like, what's your name? James. What's your dog's name? Baldwin. I'm like, nigga, is that James Baldwin moving into the boarding house? Like, stop.
Yeah, there are definitely some references to historical characters, and we might have to go back and in a later episode
for sure
a little recap of how many are referenced.
Going back,
but then remember, they also were listening to James Baldwin on the way to Massachusetts.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I know they're just obsessed. Like, which James Baldwin deserves all the obsession. So I'm like, yeah,
and
like,
if that's your friend,
yeah, put him in there. Yeah, because the idea is that Letty said she would make this a place for people who are deserving, but it's kind of artsy types, like dancers moving in.
Which
one thing
they need that too.
No, for sure. Like, for sure. I didn't notice it until Ruby called it out later. But so now Tick is here. But before we talk about that, I just want to mention one small thing, which was that somebody was saying, like, can you fix the elevator? We're carrying this big fucking piano upstairs. And she was like, well, I got to wait to find a colored piano or a colored elevator
Right.
And I'm like, just the idea of like you can do simple shit until someone in your community knew how to do it. And it's like, I
And
know
then
that.
what are we doing today?
Right. I know that. I
Not
mean, I know
doing
we've
that.
held on to some trades, but I'm just like, we definitely have lost so much of our self-sufficiency. And I'm not, but here's the thing. I'm not grateful for that self-sufficiency. I think it's just, it shows how strong we were. But I do think that, like, you know, as the race war is happening, and I think that we're going to be fucked on our little part, because we're going to be like, nigga, I'm not picking cotton for you, and then who's going to do the work? So I almost said something really problematic. Okay, keep going. So Tick and Letitia are in the room. What are they arguing about?
Basically, they haven't been in touch. So it's like, okay, Tick comes and it's just like, you know, haven't checked in, like, what's up? And then it seems like he's not staying. Like he's gonna go back to Florida, which is where he was before this, right? But
and you can tell that even if Letty isn't like fully in love with him, like she appreciates him so much. Like they've been through something, and the fact that he left her hanging is really kind of fucked up. Like she through no fault of her own, no knowledge of her own, got caught up in this shit with you. She was just going to her brother's house when they saw the monsters. And so the fact that she went through all this with you,
if she died, they both are obligated to check on each other. Like they both been through trauma. I wouldn't say Tick is deserving of a check-in more than Letitia is.
No, that's fair. Well, maybe maybe because she feels like she likes him. He's going through so much. He lost his uncle. She don't want to be too forward, but you know what? You're right. Like, you know, fuck gender roles in 1955. So something's happening now that is very upsetting, and it's. I want to pause it. This is how upset I am, but we're gonna keep taking our notes. So here comes the racism. We couldn't go that far.
Right.
We're oh my god. Here's the scene. So let's pause the racism. Yeah, we'll come back to
racism because there is a ghoul. There is a ghost.
Bitch.
You know, pulling at the sheet.
Bitch, so Letitia sleep.
Scary as fuck. Bruh. Because first of all, this thing looks ugly as fuck.
Let me tell you something. I said, okay, so somebody's grandma with the bottom of her face taken off is just in her room chilling. And that's when I said, so you're telling me they're going to just do regular ghosts as well? We didn't dealt with all this other shit. We didn't dealt with dogs that eat people and castles and immortality. And then just a regular ass ghost? A ghoul?
Like, it's too much. It's too much. It's
unnecessary.
Too much. And then I'm like, is it going to be like they live here forever and they always have ghosts? Or like, can they get rid of the ghosts? Like, I wouldn't want to have to experience ghosts. But at least if there's like, okay, I won't have to deal with this forever. There's an end point. It's like, okay.
Right. That's what anxiety is, not knowing what shit will end.
Just move in, and then the first week you realize, damn, my house is haunted. I have to pay the mortgage.
Period. Yeah, no, dead ass.
Shit.
So she comes down to the basement because when she wakes up without realizing what took her covers off, which, ma'am. So she wakes up, she's hot as fuck, but she can't open the window because of the racist, and we'll get back to that. So she goes downstairs. Just want to point out that this bitch grabs a monkey wrench and takes the pressure off of the wall. Sis, I would be like, oh, I'm gonna break it if I do that. I just know I'm gonna break it.
I would be like, Dad,
oh shit. High. So she hears pipes groaning, and she does it. This is the only time they did something that I don't know is the blackest thing she could have done, which is she investigates. But it is her house.
Right.
Probably thinks it's legit.
No. No.
Oh my God, I never saw this before. That bear trap? Why do they have a bear trap? They're not hunting bears in Chicago. That's for people. Okay.
Yeah. That's definitely, there's something up with this house for sure.
Yeah, because there's like, stuff that don't need to
be. Wait. For me, I think that is crazy to move into a house with all this crap.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that.
They're in the basement. She's in the basement.
This didn't make no sense.
Full of crap with cobwebs. Like, I wouldn't want to move into no house where no one's gone through all the cobwebs and checked in all the boxes.
Oh my God.
Dead bodies.
I'm seeing all the artifacts now of just collected people who probably lived here before. Like, I see like stuffed animals. I just saw a little thing. I was wondering, why is there this? And it's like this look like one of the anatomy things that doctors use. I'm like, why do they have that? Like, they have all these random things. So mind you, this show has no random no random thing. So this is
Right.
gonna have meaning. So okay. So while
now she's in the basement because she brings Tick with her
because she knows she
to
heard
check
something.
out the banging, because it was like the door was moving.
It really moved.
The door was like dum 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 dum. It wasn't like
let me tell you something. If
it
you
was
hear
like there's someone knocking at the, like, banging on this thing, it's locked, they're trying to get out, which they didn't show them unlock it, so that was interesting too, but there must have been like something on it or a lock.
let me tell you something. It is sexist and ableist if you say you hear something for somebody to tell you you just stressed out. That don't make sense. I heard something. That's
and
it.
The other thing is houses make noises, like they do.
Yeah.
So whether or not it's a ghost, like you can acknowledge that a sound was made.
But what she didn't notice was she said like, oh, like somebody fuck with my water heater, which is like they got in your house, sis.
Yeah,
they got
like,
to your basement.
Is there a door to the basement? Is there an entrance from outside?
So now,
if not, then they came through the front door.
Yeah, now Tick is saying, I'm gonna bolt your shit down for you, don't worry. And she goes, thank you, and just grabs his hand platonically, but also romantically. And this nigga says, whoop, I will be denying intimacy today. Thanks, sis.
I want to put that on a t-shirt. Oh yeah, I will be denying intimacy today. Oh my god, I'm ordering that right now.
so then he's like, this should be our your dark room, and we remember that she does photos. So now they having a party. They about to have a gangster party. Niggas showing up in their best dress. And so again, when somebody tells you you need to dress a certain way to get respect, you don't. We dress like everybody else. There was no hoochie mama clothes in the 50s. We all dressed the same. So
yeah, we look good. Anyway,
they talk about this pastor, this up and coming pastor named Michael, but he changed his name, and he was engaged to a white woman, but they made him marry a colored woman. And I
need to go read that story because it's true allegedly. Apparently, I mean.
So they're discussing the one and only Martin Luther King Jr., the honorable. And you know what? I should have known he was gonna marry a white woman because he's an alpha. Sorry. No, there are plenty of great alphas. I mean, I have friends raised by great alphas, but I would just say that, I just want to take a dig at 06. So, wow, but imagine like they're only 40 years in at this point to the frat. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like the founders are around.
Yeah. Wow. Right. And so it's interesting because remember they talked about the lodges and they were like, I forget the guy's name. He had to create his own lodge because of the Freemasons because they wouldn't let him in. Right. But that's interesting how he was able to make his own, but they wouldn't let them in. So I wonder where it must have been somewhere in the north where he was allowed to have separate. But
I think he said Massachusetts.
Like in the south, they would have been like, you can't be part of our shit.
It was Massachusetts. Yeah, he was talking about trying to join the Massachusetts Free. And the irony is that it's Massachusetts Freedom Militia or whatever shit. So it's like they were talking about freedom, but only for them. And I just want to make sure that we know that when people are saying,
you can be an abolitionist in the black.
Right. When they're saying the word, to this day, when they're saying words like freedom, American rights, they don't mean for us, they mean for you. Just like when straight people are talking about stuff, they don't mean for all of us. So I'm like, you really have to push people. But anyway, so Letty and this is moving so fast. So Letty and Hippolyta were just in the kitchen and they had a moment where Hippolyta admitted that Tick was getting on her nerves, but she's just sad, and we knew that. So then we cut to the kids playing with Ouija boards. Dee and two of her friends, and they're all cute. And this little boy, his name is Bobo, says, "Will I have fun on my trip?" And the Ouija board says, "No." Bugs Bunny gift, no. And the lights start going out, which if you know in a movie, if you see any scary movies, when the lights start going, they let you know that Ouija board is popping. You have turned on the grid. You have locked into the spirit. Yeah.
But okay, should we say they say
the theory? Yeah. Go ahead.
They say his name is Emmett, but I'm like, at what point I missed that.
They never call him Emmett. I think that people are really doing a lot of
connecting the dots.
Yeah, they're because the fact that they never say Martin Luther King Jr. But like, so none of us would know that they were talking about him unless we put all the context clues together. So so then as the Ouija board, the four kids are going and the Ouija board starts spelling George is dead, which pisses Dee off and she runs away, which I would do too, because she thinks her friends are being funny, and they're like, bitch, I swear to
Mm-hmm.
God, that was not me. Which I've never done a Ouija board, and I don't think I want to.
I don't want to.
It's too serious. I could sit down and pray on my own. Yeah, no, because you fuck around and tell me something I don't need to know. So this is my favorite part, because Hippolyta is looking for D, and she's in this house. She must be like on the 3rd floor. D is short for Diana, and she hears something. So she goes, again, second sin that Black women don't do. Well, actually, a Black woman won't do it. A Black single woman won't go after the sound, but a Black mother, a Black homeowner, she will have to go look. She like, yeah, I gotta, if it's a bug,
I guess
anyway.
Yeah.
So she goes in there. We see this golden thing,
and they were we missed that part at the beginning. They were like, "There's a door in here that won't open."
This is a door that didn't open. Oh, you're right. Yes, there was a door that went open, but it only opened for Hippolyta, which I told you Black women is a key, but I'm not going to spill no. I don't know. I have my connections. I'm making in my brain that have not been confirmed, but I have a very good idea about what this thing is. Even with what we find out in this episode, I do think Hippolyta has more power in this thing than we know. So anyway, Hippolyta just...
Which is why I think Atticus's mother was related to Hippolyta, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Interesting. Or maybe it's just all... But anyway, so
we didn't say what it was. So basically,
we don't know what it is yet.
Oh
yeah, you're right.
It looks like a model of the solar system.
Yeah, we don't have context yet, but that's what it looks like. It just looks like this thing. It looked like some Home Goods.
Like metal.
It would be $129 at Home Goods. Mm-hmm. So Tick walks in his army outfit.
Though. That was the only thing without dust on it in this one.
Okay, listen, we gonna talk about this house. So Tick walks in, his friend is like, "Oh, look at you got your outfit on." So we got his whole little army thing on. And he was like, I was standing on the porch so the white people would know I'm a veteran, which is like, they don't give a fuck. Why would you think that? Anyway, so the guy's like, oh, you see Letty over there? Oh, man, I'm feeling nostalgic. I used to, okay, I'm going to translate it to 2020. I used to smash, right? So if that's your girl, let me know. That's your shawty, like, I won't ride up on her. Like, let me know, like, ski, like, what up? So he says, Tick is like, I don't give a fuck. So Tick is doing this thing where he acts like he doesn't care, but he's looking at Letitia and he's jealous.
And she is getting it in with this guy. She's there all over the dance floor, just making a whole scene. So don't let
nobody tell you twerking is too much. These niggas are attached. They're skin to skin.
There's nothing new. There's nothing new in pop culture. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, but that's why
what you are, what ethnicity you are.
But we just don't even have time to really process how homeboy. High school was a lot of years ago. Who gives a fuck that you used to smash her 15 years ago? She's grown.
Right.
So if that's what you used to do, mind your business. Like, you don't have nothing to do with her. So I think that...
and she clearly don't want you.
And the one with her is fine. That nigga was fine, by the way. We didn't even talk about him. He could have been a 90s R&B singer, the man she was dancing with. So Letty's in the bathroom. She looks up, and we see a mother ghost in the mirror. He is bloody as well. And I'm just confused. They're coming after her. But
and I'm like, how come no one saw that except us?
Right. But then when she looks up, she sees Tick. And so he's here to talk to her about something very serious. No, just kidding. He's kissing her.
Right. I was like, what?
And they're making out. They kiss her. And yeah, right. They immediately take the clothes off. And I'm like, I know that old ass sink is not holding her. Like the way he picked her up. So she's going for it. She's extremely and he's already in. And that was too fast. That was extremely fast. Like, they didn't kiss once. Ooh, he's fine though. That's not the point. That's not the point. Stay focused.
Sex ed is probably not.
Yeah, it's like, let's just make sure for the people who need
not that ever teaches.
Y'all need to have had sex so many times before you ever have sex like this. Don't you ever just enter like that. You need to get a real quick consent. Even though she's taking your clothes off, you good, you ready. And there's just so many things you can do that would just that just doesn't look fun. That doesn't look. And she's bleeding. So he pulls up blood from his fingers, and she says, "Oh, I'm on my period." And I called you, Coco, and I said, because at this moment I said, "Oh, she's never had sex before." I'm not going to use the V word because we're abolishing that concept, but she's never had sex before. Because I'm like, she's not on her period. Like, you don't bleed like that. Like, it seemed like a good amount of blood. It was like, you don't not know you're on your period.
What I also hesitate to do is to, like, connect that purely with you not having had sex before.
Yeah, because you can definitely not bleed the first time you have sex.
Yeah. Or you can bleed other
She's
times.
Crying.
That's not related to the first time.
She's crying and her light is gone. I just want to say that. But so no, I do think you're 100% correct. I don't think that everyone's first time having sex is very different. I'm just noticing that it just you can bleed today. You can bleed for no reason. I'm just saying that when that happened, it hit me like that's the reason why she's bleeding. Like she's not on her period because she's a grown woman. She knows when she's on her period.
Basically, it's like more of like it is a thread in their romantic
for sure. Yeah. So her light is out. I do want to mention one thing before we get to the action. So she's sitting there talking, and Ruby keeps talking about how she's about to apply to Marshall Fields. She's about to apply to Marshall Fields. If people thought like her, the race would be better. And as she's in the middle of her talking, she hears some shit. They go open up the window covering and find that a cross is burning in the yard.
Crazy. Like, I don't know, again, what would I do if that was my house, because I would definitely put it out and then I would be like, yo, stop.
There's no way out. I would have been lit them cars on fire. So that's just me.
They left those bricks going. It feels like it's been like a week.
No, dead ass. So one thing we did skip over was like the very unwelcome reception they had. So so we'll come back to that. But they have been harassing them and torturing them for weeks, like a week. And so Letty's like, fuck it.
Everyone was moved in.
She takes the same bat that she later passed down to Beyonce. Just kidding. So she takes that bat and she breaks in the windows, and then Ruby takes those weapons and puts them in the trunk and drives off, which is crazy that she knew the place. And then Letty and the men who stood guard for her stand and prepare to get arrested,
which is interesting. But so we wanted to mention that they had bricks on their car horns, and the car horns were going off like round the clock.
Yeah, I feel like
few days that they had moved in. So that was like the main harassment that they were experiencing. So can you imagine? They had 3 cars with bricks.
No, for sure. Yeah, I want to come back and talk about that whole thing because I feel like that's a whole conversation. So the police chief apparently is in the paddy wagon with her. I really believe they had paddy wagons back then. And so Letitia's sitting there and he's just talking shit, calling her a monkey, calling her a nigger.
Saying, oh, we didn't get any complaints from.
She had filed 21.
That your neighbors have been complaining. So I don't know what you're talking about. But then he's oddly interested in their house, like very much like, what do you know about this house? Why'd you move there?
Anything strange?
Why did anyone move into any house?
And she like, nigga,
it was for sale.
And then he asked her a very specific question: did anyone tell you to buy that house? Which is like, nigga, set me up. Like, I'm just like, somebody knew some shit. Like, these ghosts, this is when I'm like, okay, the ghosts got something to do with this. Like, okay, so then he puts his hand in the strap. I'm like, huh? Bitch, they start swerving this paddy wagon from lane to motherfucking lane. She is getting fucked up. She's hitting every corner, every wood block, every piece of sheer plastic. And he's still talking shit about her, about how if she tells her where she got the money, then this will end, as if there's no way she could have money.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's just like, what is it? First of all, what does it matter? Like, because it doesn't seem like you're arresting me, so you just want to know. So that's like, it's purely clear that there's some corruption within the police, just as there always is.
Yeah, we talked about this,
especially as it relates to Black people in this time. But it's just like he's asking questions with there's no answer and there's no reason.
He does tell her something we did not know, which is that 8 Black people were killed in that house before, and I do not think he's lying.
Right.
So then we get to some crazy shit. So
there's ghosts. It's haunted by Black people. Because at first I was like, "Is this a white ghost?"
Right. Exactly. No, I was confused about the ghost. I'm like, yeah, because we've seen the bodies of 2 Black folks, so it's like, okay, that makes it pretty clear that it's of that. But I'm like, why would the Black people be bothering her? That part I really don't understand. So just,
right. Or they're trying to warn her, but like, because they look so grisly, it's like, no, they must be trying to scare her, but we don't know yet. So now she's down in the basement and she's
developing these photos.
And she's developing photos, but she realizes that something interrupted the development on all the photos. There's like this like streak that's going through everyone. So she's trying to line it up to see like what could have happened. Like, you know, probably like, where did I go wrong? Like, how does this
yeah, but then I noticed that the scratches were kind of glowing, and that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just like somebody fucked her thing. So the fact that she even knew there was something to connect is like, I was like, oh, this would be a great puzzle. Like, this is like a great like escape game. And then, bitch, don't them things start motherfucking glowing? They come together. And this is another time. This is also when I picked up the phone and called you, because I said, is a head floating out of the goddamn floor right now? And he's saying, get the fuck out of my house, period. He lifts her up and slams her against the stairs, and she's screaming like anyone, and she runs, which, okay, now we're doing some normal things.
And she runs and don't tell nobody.
Don't tell nobody. Because it's daytime, apparently. Oh, and so people are moving out because they're like, bitch, you got us set up in some real shit. So Ruby's cussing her out because why would you have messed the cars up? You messed it up. You put a target on her back. And it's like, really? Like, now Ruby's definitely on some like, if you be respectable, they'll accept us kind of shit. So then she says, what are we gonna do for money? We can't afford this. And without thinking, Letitia goes, oh, I'll just use the rest of the money for mama. And Ruby says, huh? Ma'am, what? And so apparently their mother left money that they didn't know she had all to Letitia and didn't share with the rest of them. And Letitia used it to get the house, used it to convince Ruby. We skipped over this earlier. She used it to convince Ruby to move in and be a partner with her, but didn't tell her where the money had come. Like, there was this kind of myth that she had like won the lottery, and Ruby's now about to tell her, basically the argument is, you're selfish as fuck. Why did you do this to me? If you really cared about me, you would have split the money. And why would she give you money when you didn't come to her funeral? You don't use her last name. And I'm just like, you know, I would say this real quick, like, in that generation, there was a lot of abuse going on, and it makes sense because like we were abused as a people, and so it passed down. So it's very hard for that to come out of your system without intentional work. So anyway, Letitia has told us, and she told the ghost tick in the lodge that her mother used to leave her. And remember, I was saying, like, I don't know what I don't think I said this out loud, but what's the timeline? Like, when was she born? When was the other two born? Who's older? Who's younger? Like, how, I don't understand why they had two different experiences where some of them love the mother and some of them don't. And I think this happens a lot where it's like, why don't you appreciate mom? And it's like, because she abused me and I don't have the language for it yet. But I just can't do this. Like, it just doesn't feel good to me. So, anyway, now Ruby's mad because she lied to her. She's really doing this out of fear, because she's scared. She's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to take care of myself.
Ruby moved out.
Yes, Ruby moved out. We had, and then now Montrose is coming to pop up at the shop and see Hippolyta. And the only thing, yeah, I think that was a ghost. The only thing that's happening is that Hippolyta just randomly is like, by the way, somebody killed my brother. Like, I know y'all said that he got killed and y'all killed the sheriff and that's why y'all ran, but this shit still don't make sense. And Montrose is like, well, I don't know what to tell you because I'm committed. This
lie.
Yeah, it will not come out. And
he looks like he is lying.
Yeah.
Whenever someone says, what else do you want me to tell you? They're lying.
They're like, the truth?
Like,
right. No, they said, you want me to tell, what else do you want me to tell you? You want me to tell you the truth? No, I can't do that. So what else do you want me to tell you that'll make you feel better? That's the end of the question. Exactly. That's the end of the question. So and it's upsetting because we didn't go on this journey with her. So like, it almost like it's, it's just like, it's hard to really understand just how much pain she's in because we're there and we already know. So then to imagine her pain and one of her partner, not her provider, her partner, someone she had built something with, someone she had a child with, like who treated her good, as we saw in that thing where she wanted to come on the adventure with them. So now she's probably like, why didn't I go in his place? Like, there's a lot of inner conflict. So I don't have space to have empathy for her yet because there's so much information not being shared right now that it's like, how do I even get where Hippolyta is because
connect with what she's feeling
because we haven't figured out
because she's just in the dark.
Yeah, because we haven't figured out
she's just like they're we don't even know how they came back and told her like what it seemed like happened when they got back. Did they just drive back and they were like, here's the body? Like, we don't know anything.
We know it's been about 3 weeks though. Yeah, we know it's been about 3 weeks since the memorial because that's what Letty said when Tick finally came back to the boarding house. So maybe it's like a month later, a month after the first episode. So then we are in this bar. I'm pretty sure it's the same. It might be there's maybe one or two bars. It's the same bar, right?
Yeah,
it's a bar they always go to. Yeah, so there's a bar that his dad is always at, and then there's another bar that Letitia and Ruby go to. Ruby performs at the bar later in the episode.
Right.
So, anyway, Letitia's sitting there. She's CSI before CSI. She has newspapers. She's drawing connections. She's figuring out who the fuck is in this house from the clues that the
ghost
chief gave her. Yeah.
Exactly.
So she finds out something that I love. A clarity. I love that that what she finds out is what's true, because I don't have time to keep going back and forth. So she finds out that there was.
She also points out that in the pictures,
yes,
something's
wrong with the pictures
that died,
right?
Which is weird.
So not only did she get that clue with the scratches in the picture, she finds out that the way they develop was there's double faces on the faces, and she matches them up to 8 missing people from Chicago, which the idea of just Black people going missing and it not being found out is so eternal. But anyway, she's starting to feel it in her spirit that these ghosts are actually just want peace. They don't actually want to bother her, which I actually believe. I don't think most Black folks don't really want to do that. They just want to be Black folks just want to sit in their chair. Right, when you get it like that, you be like, I'm sitting in my chair and be in paradise. Yeah, I'm leave me alone. So, but then she finds out, okay, there was this doctor who was disgracefully left his university because he was doing research, probably eugenicist stuff. This is after the war, when we know that Hitler was using all kind of experiments to figure out basically they were using tactics to make people they thought less than to just do anything to them. So he was experimenting. So in the middle of this, she also goes, hey, Tick, by the way, you're the first person I ever had sex with. That was my first time. And Tick says, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot.
He's like, oh, I gotta take my glasses off.
He's like, oh my God. And then she says, I needed it. And I'm like, ma'am, you don't know.
Yeah,
do not know.
No, we're not going to disempower her. Remember, everyone's first time is different. But no, I did. I want to talk about that afterwards because that's actually a great topic. But anyway, so he pulls over and it's his humanity comes back for a second. He says, you know what? I'm sorry. I came at you rough because I thought you were a slut. And she's like, no, that's how I interpreted it. But then she's like, bro, by the way, it's not just that. I've needed you. We went through some shit. Where are you at?
Oh, and she needed to know that they still had a connection. And not even on romantic, but just on a we can connect because we've been through shit and we actually all bonded through it.
Yeah, she said that also. Oh, she mentions that the church, she mentions things being different than what she thought. Her relationship with her sister, pioneering, having died, going to church. And so I guess I imagine that I wouldn't be able to go sit in church if I knew monsters were real and niggas were walking back to the Garden of Eden. And that probably would fuck me up. So, next favorite scene. We've cut to the house. There's these 2 white people not minding their fucking business. Go mind your business. Go be in white men's business. Go watch Tool Time, okay? Wait for 30 years in the future for it to come on TV. So this priestess comes in. I got to remember what language she speaks, and she cuts a goat's neck immediately. Just off rip, she's like, I'm about to cleanse this shit. And I'm like, let's fucking go. Because what I really appreciate is that, oh my God, I appreciate so much that we've seen white witchcraft, and I was like, no, bitch, we started all this shit. We're going to go back to to being the priestesses that some of us were. Going back to something you said off air, which is that all of us were not kings and queens in the continent. All of us were not priestesses. That's a special thing. So she comes and she marks an X over everything with the blood of the goat to purify things. And I'm like, sis, mark my forehead while I'm watching this shit because
I need it.
Yeah, it's a stressful already.
It's getting wild.
So sis got her robes on. I really also
appreciate that she does the house because, as we know, apparently people have been in the house. Well, actually, it could have been a ghost now that we think about it.
Yeah, but still, she's protecting.
But she's protecting the house, so she's protecting, making sure no bad spirits can come in.
Right.
And then they're gonna go drive anything that's in there out.
Right.
And so they're doing this circle. They're doing
just doing a cleansing.
Yeah, a cleansing, exactly. So she's speaking Creole, but we don't know what kind.
Right, exactly.
The
I want to say
priestess is
hoodoo, but
doing the ceremony.
it's for, I hope it's hoodoo, but anyway, she's, which I want to talk about hoodoo. I'm gonna write that down. So anyway, says she goes right in the basement and says, "Oh, yep, this is where it is," and starts going. And while that's happening, three white boys decide, because they feel like it, to break into the house. So don't worry. While they're doing that, they bust in through the house. I guess they're looking for niggers. And while they're doing that, they're in the cellar getting busy. So they don't even pay attention to them. But the white boys are going where they hear voices. But these are the same whispering voices we heard when Letty was in the basement. So we already know some going on. They're not about to find Letty in them. I knew that already. I was like, nah, the ghosts know. So they're in that locked room. The locked room opened itself up for them and closed the door right back on and locked it for them.
And that thing that was on the table is not there. So
also my favorite part.
I'm trying to figure out if Letty now has access to the room. Can anyone walk in, or is this door just opening for certain people?
I think it has
and who's opening it? So is it the white man who came out of the head?
No, the house is open. The house is very clearly opening it. Like, they don't touch a handle. But so the hoodoo priestess, I'm assuming the Creole priestess, is in the basement, and sis is ready. She's working. They're chanting. Stuff is flying around the room, which, girl, just putting myself.
I don't know how I could.
I mean,
whoa! I didn't know this was actually gonna happen. Okay, we're in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, so the white boys two of the other three white boys are in the room, and this basketball player with a baby's head comes up and pushes them to the wall where the heater is over steaming, which we saw the steam happening earlier. Right. So now we think it is the ghost, and they are burning in steam, which burn in hell. And then
another one is looking in the elevator room, and we already know the elevator is malfunctioning, and the elevator comes up and knocks his head off.
So the thing that almost happened to Letty actually happened to him. And the best part, the irony, is the elevator chimes when it lands correctly at his floor. So they're chanting. Tick was like before, like, I don't know about this, but now Tick is like, well, shit, I'm cheering with y'all, and it's cool.
Right.
Oh my God, it worked.
Shit's happening. It's working. It's working.
It worked.
Okay, but now they're in the basement. The water goes
relieved
off,
laugh.
And they're like scared because they're like, oh no, the marks of protection are gonna get washed off.
You're a quick second ahead of me. Yeah, so now they're like, oh shit, we gotta get out of here. We're not gonna be protected after that. Which I didn't even think about that. I was just like, oh no, we're wet. So they go running up the stairs, and guess what, bitch? The motherfucking ghoul then locked the cellar door. Oh my God. So then he's fucking the priestess up. So now he's flying her around the room, and then she does this thing that they did in True Blood, which was my very least favorite season of True Blood, where she gets possessed and so her eyes go all black, and now the priestess has superhuman powers, and she's fucking Tick up, basically. That's it. She got him up against the wall.
What you said before, we're not sure like what it is yet, but some force was when you said was.
Yeah, something was, yeah.
Some force, because we don't see a person.
But we're starting to think that scientists has something to do with it, because now that I think about it, that head was not a black head, it was a white head. So
it was a white man.
Yeah. So it's like, and then
he's probably the owner of this house.
So then Letitia, with her brave ass, starts yelling out the names of the people that she knows need to be freed. So she yells out the names of the 8 black folks who died here. And when that happens, the priestess falls out. We think it's better, but nope. Now Tick has an all black eye. So now Tick is possessed, and just the acting in the scene is something else. So starts calling out to all of the dead the people killed by this doctor in this house for his experimentation. And bitch, I texted you like, it's like the black ghosts need revenge, Avengers assemble, because they all come out of their space and they all are like, well shit, bitch, you calling me, I'm here. So Tick is possessed with the white man, and they show it so well. So the way that they have the double faces in the pictures, Tick has a double face now, but like in real 3D. Yeah. And so
it's like we see the white man who we assume is the scientist. 1 second, I just need to plug my computer in.
Yeah, they're playing some dope ass gospel. And here we go. LOL. So now Tick is out, and it's just they're just fighting this ghost, this doctor, and The best part is that the black ghosts, while they are working to tear him away, they become whole. So they start to heal, because you should never die and then have to live in that pain that someone inflicted on you. So their bodies become whole. Oh, and they look beautiful. They look like, and it reminds you that like we see black death so much, and black dead bodies and black whatever, but like black people just be living and looking beautiful and looking wonderful and healthy, and all shapes and sizes, all skin conditions, and then you kill them and they look like it just takes the life out of them. And so we see their lives again. We see what he took, and
their humanity.
And if you think this 8 people is fictitious, there's 80 million black people who've been killed like this. And this scene of Letty just letting it go after she done fought to free the blacks.
Yeah, she's a warrior. She's
period.
Troubled. She's definitely has something going on that she's coping and no one knows, but she is really putting a brave face
and she
on.
realized Tit can only do so much for her, so she had to do it for herself. So then
she really did.
So we flipped to Ruby's gone, but Letitia is now, and the elevator is fixed, but Letitia is now legit
It's a boarding house.
Yes, so she's letting people in need come, whoever needs to come. And there's a reporter who says, "Oh, hey sis, quick question. By the way, do you know about 3 white people that went missing?"
And if it was me, I would have been like, no, definitely not.
What are white people? I'd act like I don't know a damn thing, sis. But
neighbors.
She did it real good.
Neighbors?
She did it real good. She said, "I hadn't heard nothing about that." And then she said, "Come take a photo."
I would have been like, I haven't even met them.
I said, white weird, bitch. So anyway, she takes a photo, and I love that. And then this scene, is this how it ends? Oh no, done. Yes, no, it's like only 6 more minutes. Okay, so then done. The elevator's moving on its own.
Also, like the way that the floors were lighting up, that must be something, because it was the same kind of like glow that was on the pictures. You saw how like the wall, they were like stars.
Yeah, there's some magic. No, that's magic. Yeah, there's definitely like the same kind of magic that Hiram used. Hiram is the name of it. So anyway, the elevator is moving on its own. We're almost done, and it goes all the way down past the cellar to something below the cellar that we didn't know was there. And we see the 3 bodies, and now I see some other bodies dead under there that I thought.
And then I was like, did Letty?
No, but I think that
put them down there?
But I think that's the 8 bodies of the 8 black people who were killed. So, but I want to bring that up because that's very important. Like, I think it was a directorial thing. I don't think that elevator goes down to the bottom on its own, but the fact that we now know there's a sub cellar under the cellar that bodies are hidden in. So Letty must know it's there, but must not understand kind of how to, like, that's it. So Tick is then in the city town. And
he goes to visit the realtor that Letty said,
which was called a realtist back then, which I think is so cute.
Right. Yeah. Helped her buy the house. And then he walks in and the guy runs out. It's a black man. First of all, it's a black man.
Because you bearing the lead. Christina Braithwaite ass, Lily White ass is standing there.
But the fact that he's the realtor as a black man is very interesting.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's Chicago.
In the middle of town.
No, that's a good point. No, you have a good point. So anyway, so he's like, "Look, bitch, I'm gonna take my money and run." But the point is that I thought he was going over there to say, "Bitch, you stole my friend. You stole my friend a tainted house." But no, he knew he knew Christina was there. So I can't tell you how upset I was to see Christina.
You think he knew?
No, I know he knew because of what he's about to do.
Oh.
But I'm like, I can't tell you how upset I was to see her ass. I hate her. I hate her so much. All white people ain't out to get you, and then still let all that shit happen. She set him up. And this is when I realized she set him up. So he comes, actually his intention is to kill her. He knows she was coming. He also figured out that she's the one who gave Letitia the money to buy the house, which means that her and Ruby fought for no damn reason. And he goes to pull the gun on her, and
he can't pull the trigger. And so it's clear that there's a spell. It's just like when they tried to leave Artem and they get under the bridge, and then there's the force field. So it's like there's clearly, obviously there's magic, but like there's multiple spells that Christina now has. And okay, so we assume that Christina's family is all dead. And
so she definitely made it out.
Her father was the only one that made it out. I mean, her father was the only one that she lived with, and then the rest of them died in the castle or whatever.
Well, so
but,
this is the last scene, so we can definitely talk about Christina. I was just trying to think about timing if we should get into, because I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what we know about this. So like, basically, just to say what's happening in this scene, and then we'll talk about Christina and what we know from this. So like you said, we realize that she's left over. We realize that she set him up. Remember when I was saying that she told him, like, wait for your moment? And I was like, this bitch want him to ruin the ceremony. And she did, because in order to have a ceremony, her dad, Samuel Fitz, had to take a spell of protection off of himself. But I guess she still had it, or she knew it. And that's how he got killed. So I think she wanted him to die. And I wonder if either she got his power, or maybe women are ultimately the most powerful. That's also possible.
maybe.
Because Christina is the one who can do witchcraft without, she don't have to chant nothing. She just does it. And so turns out that he's not going to be able to ever hurt her. No one can ever hurt her. And so she puts her card in his pocket and literally says,
well, we don't know if never, but like, there's definitely
as long as
some
it's spell.
obstacles.
As long as the spell is on
Okay.
her. Yeah, and then she literally says, you cannot go around trying to kill white women. So she knows that not only can you not fight my spell, bitch, you can't fight Chicago in the 50s.
Because she opened the blinds to say, even if you didn't kill me, the fact that you're pointing a gun at me,
yes,
could get you killed. So you better think twice before you try to do this again.
She really let him know. And again, going back to her trying to act like she was his friend and she wasn't. Like, anyway. So, sorry, you were talking about her though in a bigger context. So, now we can get into. So, y'all episode, your credit should be running. Now we can get into all the list of things that we ran over before. So, Coco, like, talk more about Christina if you want to, or about what we think about the lodge based on this.
Well, I was just saying that we're assuming we don't know much about her family. We only know her father. So we're assuming that if there was anybody else, they all died in the lodge when the lodge collapsed. And we know that her father turned to stone. So we're also assuming that she's the last in her line of family members, which is interesting because they're connected directly to the person who started this lodge.
Yeah.
So like
a son of Adam.
Direct to Adam, but also to this magic. That's interesting also, because it's just like the magic didn't necessarily come from Adam, but it's something that exists. Well, I don't know, they didn't really say, but like we don't have any connection to say that Adam created these spells, right? It was just that they exist.
So she does go into it, and if you're really interested, go back and watch that scene. I mean, I know what she said was important, but I was like, oh, I'm so tired of seeing her. But she talks about how, like, basically only her father and them were smart enough to make their own spells. Like, the rest of the spells, people basically, like, saying the rest of them niggas just showed up to the lodge meetings, did the shit, and went home. We were actually the ones figuring out. So I'm immortal right now as long as I got this spell on me. I don't know how they figure out how to get rid of it, but, like, you know. And then she also says there's more spells. So Titus, the original OG plantation owner, I was trying not to say slave, but
the founder of the lodge,
the founder of all this fucked up shit was like, he has a list of spells and things that Tick is obviously powerful enough to concoct and put together because of what he did in the ceremony. So if you work with me, we can figure this out. And she knowing her though, she wanted eternal riches and glory for herself to kill Tick later. Like, you're not about to share the throne with him, so you've already shown that. So that's what I got out of that with Christina, and that she's going to be around because she gave the house to Letty. Oh, and she knows about the Hiram Epstein, whoever the doctor was, because I don't know if she admits it here, but she definitely knew him. So she knew that she was putting Letty in a lot of danger.
And so she probably paid off this realist. Then she pretended to be the bank and sent money to Letty.
Yeah, I think that so basically we know Christina is here to stay, so we can talk about her again in the next episode. So here's what we have in our notes. We have pioneering, Ruby and Letitia. I think we did cover Ruby and Letitia though in the second fight they had, and then pioneering. I think that, I think we're going to see some interesting things with Ruby and her idea of like what she has plans for, and how what Letitia does to her is like frivolous or non-principled, and like Ruby has her own plans. And that's interesting because I think that it leaves their relationship really vulnerable. But then we also have Hippolyta and so we noticed that Hippolyta was really interested in something in the house, and then it was gone. And so if Hippolyta took something out of that house, that's going to be hilarious to me. That's all I'm going to say. Like, this the idea of going to somebody's party and seeing something shiny and saying, well, shit, ain't nobody using this, is great.
Right. So that's also interesting because I'm wondering, like, what is her background? Because she was saying, like, she's a writer. She's, you know, like she's interested in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously she's a mother, but like, I definitely want to know what's her background. I feel like
For
there's a
sure.
story,
That's what I'm
a
saying.
story
Like,
there.
unfortunately, like, we haven't identified with her yet. And I can tell that she's like a dynamic ass person and character. But it's like she's doing these things we don't fully understand, like ruining the book and then buying another copy of it because she feels bad, or like, you know, pushing Tick away because he reminds her too much of George or what George wouldn't have done. So I hope, you know, I see flashes in the previews and I hope that means that we will see more of her. I know we will. And then, I have to know, we never talked much about that scene with Tick and Montrose. And so when we walked in the apartment, we saw the Count of Monte Cristo again, which I
Oh
think
yeah.
we're not done with that book. That book came up when he was hidden in that tower prison, but I know the book
He
is going to come back
packed
up.
it.
Yeah, he cared
I
about
think
that
he
book a lot.
packed it on the Tick packed it when he was packing for their trip to Massachusetts.
So which one of us is going to read the book to figure out what it means? We're going to
Spark
Wikipedia
Note.
for sure. Oh my God, Spark. But yeah, so taking his dad, any other thoughts about the scene with them and the fact that they cannot get along?
No, I just think it's foreshadowing how they're always going to be on separate pages,
Mm-hmm.
or there's going to be a big like resolution where they get on the same page and they realize
Mm-hmm.
like there's no way out but through
For
together.
sure. Okay, yeah, I think so too. I think that like this, it's like Uncle George gave him a dying wish, and it was be there for my son. And if he can't do that, then we're gonna
Be
either
there for my son.
dead ass. But I'm like, that's gonna be the death of. That's either gonna be the death or the life of their relationship. Like either Montrose will really drive himself to drinking because he can't do it, or he will make Uncle George proud. So the three things I have for us to cover before we go is racism, hoodoo, and reactions to your first time having sex. So you pick what we want to talk about first.
Do hoodoo first.
So yeah, I think that would be quick. I just wanted to spotlight how I love that we kind of use like the response of like enslaved people and their strength as like a spirituality when we saw Hannah running and tearing the place down. It's like it kind of talked about this innate power we have, but there was no like direct like, oh, Hannah was a witch or anything like that. We also assumed that if it was in the early 1800s, then that probably was a couple generations in America, one or two generations at least in America, meaning like Hannah may not have like brought a religion over from the motherland, and then like we don't know what her religion was. It just like she seemed magical. But to have an actual priestess come and speak in her language, be dressed in her, that's I'm trying not to call her out her name. That's the only person you didn't see without a poodle skirt and stress like and straight hair. Like she came in like, look, I'm dressed how I'm dressed. And she brought the goat. Like, where did she get a goat in Chicago? Like, and then she came and she protected that house. And so she
From the
held on this.
farm.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to bring up the idea that like this is the first time we've seen Black spirituality because we've seen church. Oh, and we saw church in the beginning, and we saw this here. So just showing that I think is so important because sometimes when shows, even on HBO shows I've seen, they show Black spiritualism and it's like very non-specific. Like it's just like a psychic or whatever. And it's like, this is a woman who's like, no, this is it. And she's powerful. Also, LOL, don't know what happened to her. All we know is that her ass got knocked out in that basement.
Exactly. I was like, did they drag her out? Did she live? Did she make it? Did
We
she go
didn't see
on
her in
to
the
about her
basement. So
business?
yeah. Yeah, we didn't see her in the basement though. She probably took her
So that is
$200
hilarious.
and said, y'all, you niggas got me.
Right. She woke up, she said, oh, well, I'll be
Oh, yeah.
collecting. Thank you.
But that's all I had to
I
say.
will collect.
Yeah, thank you, cause you know, Oshun takes care of me, but I still need my money. So there's that. Oh yeah, that might be it. Anything else on Hoodoo?
I think that I had one more thought about it, but it was just around, like you said, like there's like this ambiguous spirituality, and then there's always like a focus on like Christianity and
Mm-hmm.
church, but it's never like other spiritual needs. Oh,
Ever.
I was saying how Letty said that her mom
Mm-hmm.
did her research And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why she was knowledgeable about other
That's
Black
deep.
spirituality. It actually is something that was passed down from her mother. So it's interesting. So she feels like she does have a connection with her
Wow.
mother
Yeah.
and how she was raised, even though she felt like her mother wasn't necessarily um, the best like mother. She wasn't
Yeah.
like a protector,
She
but
wasn't there. She wasn't present.
she equipped her with other things to protect herself, to make her
Right.
self-sufficient.
Well, what's also interesting, I mean, that's a great point. What's also interesting is like this idea that, I think we always stereotype spirituality as like touchy feely. And so here's this
Yeah.
woman who spread on Christianity, I don't know what I'm saying, passed on Christianity, passed on spiritualism, potentially hoodoo, but didn't make her like a goddess of intimacy or anything. She seemed like a regular troubled woman who also knew that. And so I think we are getting a lot into her mother without knowing, but I think it shows
There's
how
a story there too, for sure.
but
That's
mothers
gonna
are a thing. Like, I don't know if you can tell a Black story without talking about mothers. Unfortunately, you can tell some Black stories and the father or the absence of the father actually, no, I'll take that back. I would say that you can't tell a story without telling Black parents, no matter what their gender are, because there is an impact. Either there's a parent who left, or there's a parent who, didn't leave or wasn't present. Like, yeah. So actually, no, I'm walking myself back because maybe it's not that. Maybe everyone's parents are important. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, actually, in that same thread, I appreciate them bringing up the parents so frequently and making sure
Mm-hmm.
that they're continued within the story. It's not like just something where it's mentioned once. Yeah, my mother was never around, and then that's it. I had
Right.
a deadbeat
That's fair.
mom, moving on. I lived my
Yeah.
life. She's not
I don't
important. It's like,
care. Yeah.
my mom had all these other things. She taught me how to be self-sufficient. She did these good things. She did these bad things. She left me money. She did these other things for me. And she also disappeared one day and I don't know what happened. And she also maybe didn't take care of my siblings as well as she took care of me, or
Right.
vice versa. And
Right.
then with the fathers, we see that it's just like my father is trying to protect me from this lodge, but he also wasn't really a good provider and protector when I was
Mm-hmm.
growing up. My uncle was my father. My uncle might actually be my father. My grandfather was abusive. Like, the threads are continuing. It's not just like a blip in the story, and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that because we do often see parenthood, and if it goes negatively,
Mm-hmm.
then they like try to like make it seem like those parents are not important,
For
and they're like no
sure.
one,
For
and
sure.
they don't have any influence that's important, significant to the long term.
Yeah, I think
So
there's also like this idea. I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking of Tyler Perry, but like thinking of that as an example, a counterpoint. You have like, oh, this shit happened, but I'm gonna go to church and I'm gonna heal and I'm gonna lay it down to Jesus. And it's like it takes away the fact that no, like you really have to process your
there's personal
childhood.
work
Yeah,
that happens.
you have to, because that's how your brain works. Like, it's not even like I'm being emotional. It's like that's literally the way we are wired and created. Like, you cannot just lay that down the altar. Like, you have to process that. And so I think there's more to be said about that, but yeah, I really love that. And then okay, I want to end with the sex talk. So to talk about racism, yeah, you did a good job describing the. So basically, they had how it started was when they were the move-in day one. They were going about their merry Black business, and 3 cars pulled up to the front, and all in coordinated nature had bricks, like you said, tied to the steering wheel to make the beeper go off all day. Which I'm like,
The horn.
what battery were your batteries didn't go out?
I don't. It must be not like a
Yeah, it was a
battery
different type
powered
of shit.
thing,
Wow. Oh
which
yeah,
I still
maybe it's
don't
not.
get. But there
Well, I
must be
guess if you
something
do the
else.
honka, as long as yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and then wow, the most sinister part of that. So basically, the white guys are just standing outside their car, like "fuck you, I dare you." But the most sinister part to me was a police car rode by at that exact time, which lets you know that not only did they do that, not only did the neighborhood know that was happening, but not only was the neighborhood willing to have that noise affect their lives just to drive them out. The police not only knew it was happening, the police coordinated with them to show up. Like they couldn't Facebook it. So the police had to know this is the time and day we're starting. So
we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do the cross.
Imagine
we about to put this cross up.
Cause wood don't come like that. So are you at your? I mean, so I don't know. This probably isn't your style of stuff. But have you ever seen was it? Oh, the Django. Did you see the Django Unchained? Yeah, so it's a Tarantino movie, and Tarantino is Quentin Tarantino is a director and a writer who's very, very controversial because he loves to say nigger in his scripts. He loves to write stuff. He probably has said the N-word in his real life. He's trash, but the movies he's made have been amazing, and he's done, I think, at least 2 movies with Samuel L. Jackson. The Django Unchained was his Jamie Foxx movie, though, who, by the way, I haven't said on this podcast.
Why do you keep saying the Django? The D is silent.
Thank you. That's hard for me to process. Oh, that's so. I haven't
seen it, but I just see that.
That's hard for me to process. Yeah, that is the byline.
That's hilarious.
Django. I always said it that way. That is so funny that you called me out. But so anyway, I just want to say how fine Jamie Foxx is. That was my point. But anyway, there's something happens in the movie where it's like an upsettingly funny, ridiculous scene where and it's like one of the classic scenes, and Black people love it for as much as they hate it. But basically, the Klan is getting ready to go somewhere, but then they find out that like their robes don't fit well and their hoods are not right, and so they start complaining about how one person's wife fucked up the hoods and bitch, like how we gonna go burn this cross? I can't see out of my hood. It's like, well, I'm gonna send you the scene, and so it's like it.
I'm gonna go watch it now.
Right, no, for sure, but it's gonna upset you because a lot of enslaved people beating. But what they do is that I really appreciate was it shows you that these were people. Like, let's stop playing like the people under these hoods were like these monsters that came out of a coffin just
they
to
were
do
community
this.
volunteers.
Yes, they were preachers. They were pastors. Yes, they were regular people who had kids that they kissed and told goodnight and wished for the best for and would do anything for it. So just wanted to bring that up because I think that's what it speaks to. Like there's such complicitness in racism. And I tweeted something today that I just wanted to bring up, which was because it hit me when I was thinking about this. I hate
slavery. No, I'm just kidding.
No, for sure. No, that's an ongoing truth. But no, I tweeted like, people try to say, we talk about like how people take it too seriously. Like there is no slave complex. Like Black people are over that, or slavery was so long ago. But it's like, tell me, when did we reset? When did we go neutral? When did we have all that happen? And then all the white families said, y'all, that was wrong as fuck. Like, yeah, when did they say, okay, this is what we're going to do? That was never it. I mean, shit, Germany was like, our bad. Germany admitted the shit and talks about it and makes fun of themselves or whatever. Like, so that was just all I wanted to say is that I feel like, we talk about these things that this is the 1950s, nigga. That's 70 years ago. That's a lifetime. People are alive today that this shit was happening. So you can't tell me it's over or it's done or it's not necessary to work on it.
Yeah.
How did you feel after your first time having sex?
Are
you gonna answer?
It was real chill.
Really?
Like it's indicative of like my everyday demeanor, if that makes any sense.
You were like, well, another day in the neighborhood. Girl, so the me before the first time I had sex was a very different me. The me before I had sex was the one who went to church all the time. And
I'm dying.
And
not I stopped going to church after.
No, it's not directly related, but it kind of, well, okay. So, I used to have, mind you, it was anxiety, but I used to get really stressed at night. I couldn't sleep and I'd be really scared about going to hell. And so I feel really guilty about having I'd be really guilty about having an oral sex. Like I'm hetero. I'm mostly hetero as far as the scale goes. And I still felt really guilty about liking boys. I felt really guilty about experimenting. I hadn't even had sex and I felt really guilty. I mean, it's crazy thinking back to it because I used to be anxious as fuck, like couldn't sleep. But then next day be like, hey, it just was like a very, very cyclical. So anyway, when I first had sex, I was like, I felt so guilty because I was thinking about my experience as like letting other people down. Like I let my mother down. She gave me a promise ring and told me to promise. I had told everyone in my life. I had met this girl through somebody we know from Wellesley. The other person from, edit point. Hold on. I'm not trying to put my college on here. You know, the other person that we went to school with that's also from my city that's in my year? So I had kind of hung out with her a little bit that summer, and well, I hung out with her a lot of it, and or a good amount, knowing we were going to the same college. And she had a friend who was Muslim, and we both bonded over being never having sex before. And then like the month later, I lost our virginity, and she was so disappointed with me. And I was like, I'm already going through shit, bitch. I just met you. Like I can't promise you that. So anyway, and then I went into my first year of college with very low self-esteem because I personally had really wrapped up being not having had sex with being special, being better than other women, being that I could fight my temptation, like, and now that I know so much more about like the legacy of like, you know, sexual trauma in generations of my family, like, I think that it makes sense very much how I felt. I don't blame anyone for it, but I also see that like, it's a very decided decision. I don't know yet, like, about how to have the talk or whatever, but it's a very decided decision that I will let my kids know, like, how extra, extra natural it is, and try to hope that by talking to them about sex the same way I would talk to them about eating food, we can figure out how to moderate it. We can figure out how to not let it become addictive. Like, because all of those things are things that can become a vice, or they can be things that like give nutrition to your life. So, I mean, not to go too deep into it, but I'm just like, that was very, it's actually a very impactful experience for me because it took me years to realize I was still worthy because I didn't have that. And then went in the other direction. So, you know, balance. I balance things out by doing two extremes and then hoping when I die, it's like, okay, we did enough of both.
That's funny. I think that for me, I never had like that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe if I did, I can't recall. But it was just me kind of wanting to like thinking that was a stage in adulthood,
mm-hmm.
and that I wanted to experience it and be able to like grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, like you're gonna jump into the pool and you're gonna learn how to swim. Like, you got to start somewhere to make this something that you'll be able to enjoy as an adult. So it was just like when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, yeah. Sounds like a good time.
I also
but before that, I wasn't interested. It wasn't that like I was like shamed about it or felt shame about it. I was just like, I think I'm good.
Just
like,
think about math.
I didn't, and like perfectly luckily I did not experience like pressure and stuff like that. So I didn't really have any like instance where I was like, oh no, like I have to say no, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. But that's pure luck. But when the time came, I felt comfortable. I was like ready to do it.
Yeah, my ability to say no was extremely strong when I was young. And then I felt like it was strong right after the first time as well. And then, you know, I think you have like hills and valleys of that based on like how single you are, how alone you live, how much intimacy you need. But my point being that I always used to think like, I just don't want this to be my first time. Like, it's not going to be no break. Because I wouldn't feel pressure, but like the most random people would try to run game on me. And in hindsight, I think maybe I seemed super innocent, which is the irony of the century. For anyone who knows me today, to think about how boys used to tell me I was like too innocent, like I didn't wear thongs, so clearly I didn't have sex. Like, it was just like a very like binary. I mean, I actually want to bring something up because this is going to help me with my thing. But I restarted a book that I had half finished called "The Sisters Are All Right," Changing the Broken a Narrative of Black Women in America by Tamara Winfrey Harris. And I've been rereading it, and it has I will definitely like invite you to read it with me, or send you the book because you need to read it, because it's like, because I sent you a block from it today where we talk all the time about the low Black marriage rate. And in the book, Tamara writes, like, you know, actually, like, more than half of Black women after 35 have been married, but that's not the statistics we hear. Black women do get married. And so, like, she's like, talks about how all this stuff ties in. So anyway, to bring it all back around, she has this chapter about motherhood, and she talks about how, like, welfare queenism and, like, shaming Black women has Black women shaming themselves about being a mother. Like single women who actively choose to be single mothers feel the need to tell people they're different or better than, like, the idea of a welfare queen, or like people who are in a relationship feel like they need to clarify to people that they're in a relationship so they know they're married and don't judge them to be a single mother. Like there's all these factors that go into it. So it made me think, I wanted to bring it up to you because I do a lot of joking about loving that I don't have kids. And I'm like, I think I'm contributing to anti-Blackness by doing that, because it's like, it's an idea that, yeah, it's like something's wrong with the Black mother who gets married before a certain time, or we don't do it thoughtfully. We do it and then just like whatever. And so I realized I'm focusing on the bad example. So wanted to bring that up because it ties back into the ideas of sex, and the idea of how to have sex, when to have sex, who to have sex with is very ingrained in us. So I know for a fact that I would never want, not even that it was malicious, but I would never want someone to feel guilty, because now that I know about myself and my sex drive now, and just that that's a type of person, I'm a sexual person, the idea that I felt so much guilt about being myself is crazy to me. And then imagine, I'm not even gay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, like, I had shame being a light-skinned straight woman. So I'm just like, I have so much empathy, and I struggle knowing how other people can't even be themselves. And it would have been accepted to an extent if I did it earlier. So anyway, I know that's deeper than thought, but that's what I was saying. Like, Letty saying, to bring it back, Letty saying, I needed that. It's really interesting, because I definitely I wouldn't ever think that, because she cried right after. And I guess I'm just like, was she saying I needed it like it's a foregone conclusion that men are going to have sex with her however they want to? Was she saying I needed it like I still would take the intimacy? Or was she saying like, oh, I love that style of having sex? I want to end by like figuring out, what was that about?
I think I said it before. I think that it continues the thread of their connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just reassured her that she wasn't alone in any fight that she was having, or the trauma that she's experienced. And so as much as it was traumatic, like sex can be traumatic, whether it's good or bad.
Traumatic is just an impactful experience.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it probably drove her to be emotional after.
For sure.
But she might have a positive connection to it, because it shows her that she still has this bond with Tick, who's important now in her life.
I really hope there's a way to learn or to teach women to not feel that after sex. Is like that, like, not okay. Let me edit that. Actually, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, her wave of emotion is natural, and I wish that it was as natural for both partners, no matter the gender. I wish that like needing a release, having an emotion, maybe she wasn't crying because of anything related to that, but I just feel like there was a lot that happened. And I think there's a lot of Hotep theory that like, women receive, and so therefore, or anyone who's femme, anyone who's a bottom receives, and so therefore they need to be, that's another thing that goes on in the book. You need to be responsible for everything in the family because you're the one who receives it. And I just hate that, and I have no real answers for it. I just hate that like she took on the emotion, because no lie, like she sat in that party a minute ago, she was the life of the party. She was dancing, she was free, and she was careless, because she was like, I'm not defined by sex. I'm not defined by my sexuality. I'm just having a good time. And I know that he doesn't own me, this guy I'm dancing with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't owe him nothing. But then someone had sex with her and then just left her. And it was like, whoa, like this is not fun. Like this does not feel good. So, and I don't think we'll come back to that. I feel like the show isn't going to take the time for that, because Letty's such a badass, but I would love to have her have some girl time to be like, like I didn't feel good about that.
Or to just explain more about how she did feel and what like drove her to be emotional.
If she knows. Anyway, so it just brings up a lot of, I think it's a good discussion, because it brings up a lot of there's a lot of assumptions, or even us trying not to assume, I think creates assumptions in a way, you know what I mean? Like, oh, let's not assume this. So it's like, well then, that. So anyway, let's end with any predictions for episode 4?
Oh, now we've like gone so far off. Okay, so they're gonna still be in this house. So I'm interested to see, like, it seems like the spirits are gone. So like, okay, now they just move on, like they just live and it's no big deal. There's definitely gonna be something with Ruby, because we're trying to figure out like what she wants to know. She's not satisfied. And then let's see, obviously there's going to be that continued thread of Tick and his father not getting along and not being on the same page.
Yeah,
And
Hippolyta
then
wants
obviously,
answers.
yeah, there's lastly, Christina is still around. She did not die. And so whatever she's looking for, she's still searching for it. And that means that Tick still is implicated in, because at the beginning, this whole story didn't start with something Tick wanted. It was based on Christina and her family and what they wanted.
Yeah.
So he's not off the hook.
Christina's still pulling the strings, and I hate that. Yeah, I think I'm totally on the same page. Just trying to think if there's anything else. I think, I do want to see a little bit of what happens with Dee. Dee's struggling with her dad, and she's a person we spent the least time with. Like, she's lost her dad, and we haven't thought about
Yeah, I
kids
love
at
that
all.
you keep bringing her back in.
Yeah, and then I think that's kind of it. Yeah, I'm like, I wanna know what happened to that shiny gold thing, that Hippolytus filch. Like, what's up with that? So, we have a lot to look forward to. Really excited to talk about episode 4. This was so much, and the fact that they could bring a whole new setting and basically like bring so many elements to this is crazy. So, anyway, thank you so much. This has been a great experience, a great chat.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. We'll see what happens. Thank you for listening to us recap HBO's Lovecraft Country. Don't forget to let the Black women in your life know that they're witty, cultured, and worth your while. Oh, and read a book.
Read a book.
Word, Spesh.